Welcome back to the Nutrition Made Simple podcast, powered by Healthy Steps Nutrition. At Healthy Steps Nutrition, we believe something as fundamental as nutrition shouldn't be complicated, which is why we focus on a simple, habit-based approach. We know that helping you become the best and healthiest version of yourself isn't just about what you eat or going to the gym a few hours a week. We focus on a holistic framework addressing stress management, mindset, lifestyle, sleep, support system, and of course, exercise and nutrition. My name is Nicole Coyne, and I'm one of the dietitians and the founder of Healthy Steps Nutrition, CrossFit HSN, and HSN Mentoring. I'm also the author of the Healthy Kids Cookbook, 100% kid-approved recipes the entire family will love. You can find it on Amazon. In this podcast, I'm going to teach you how to take one step at a time to making health a way of life. I am so excited to talk all about goal setting using identity and a habit-based approach with one of our gym owners, nutrition coaches, and a client of Healthy Steps Nutrition. Bethany Ream is the owner of CrossFit Wooster with her husband. They are so passionate about helping people in their community make health a way of life. She enables people to discover the best version of themselves through nutrition and fitness coaching. With a background in supporting college students and young athletes, she has a history of mentoring and developing individuals through stressful seasons of their life. She has taken all of that, plus her own personal experience with her own weight loss journey, to now inspire people to take control of their health. Her story is so inspiring, she shares it during this week's podcast. But she also talks about how she has helped her clients use this identity piece to help them set goals and create a plan that sticks. It's not just about losing weight and hitting a number on a scale. It's about becoming the person that you want to be and defining that for yourself. I really hope you enjoy this podcast with Bethany. We will get to it right after this message. Are you loving this podcast? We would love for you to take a screenshot, share it with a friend, share it on social media, and don't forget to tag us. Please feel free to subscribe, leave us a review. It really helps this podcast reach more people. The goal of this podcast is to help give people information so that they can make health a way of life. We provide simple and actionable tips every single week. I truly hope that you enjoy this podcast and leave us a review so this podcast can reach more people. All right, let's get to this podcast with Bethany Ream. Bethany, welcome to the Nutrition Made Simple podcast. I'm so excited to have you on today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
No, we're starting a new year. We're recording this in the last couple of days of 2022, but we're starting a new year. You and I just got off of a call a week ago, and you were talking about how you did this nutrition seminar in your gym, all about goal setting and identity. And you were talking about the impact it had. And I was like, I got off that call and I was like, you know what? This message needs to be spread larger than just your CrossFit gym in Ohio. So I'm excited for us to dive into everything that you talked about in that nutrition talk and so much more today.
Yes, me too. Super pumped.
All right. So you are a gym owner and now official Healthy Steps nutrition coach. You guys are launching your nutrition coaching program at CrossFit Wooster.
Yes.
I would love to just backtrack a little bit. Like, how did we get here? How are we sitting here? You have your own story with fitness and nutrition and all the things. I'd love for our audience just to hear how we are here today.
Yeah. Well, thanks for giving me the opportunity to share my story. How did I end up as a CrossFit, owner and now a nutrition coach is kind of funny. It came out of my own journey. I've been doing CrossFit since 2014. So when my husband and I first started doing CrossFit together. And then in May of 2021 is when we actually purchased the gym from the previous owner. And my husband and I became owners of CrossFit Wooster. And as we became owners, a piece of my story is just like everybody else, I went through major life changes since 2014, in which even though I had my great moments in the gym of being consistent. I also had really hard seasons in which when I was outside the gym, I would see, my weight and my overall health go up and down quite a bit. And I never was able to keep consistency. And so after big job changes, now 2 babies, babies in the midst of purchasing the gym too, by the way, we purchased the gym, and then I had our son. So it was pretty crazy. After it was in, I want to say July of 2021 is when my son was born. That fall, we started having very serious discussions about nutrition and how it was the essential piece that was missing in our gym and for our members. And we actually had a kickoff with some other folks. We actually hired a registered dietitian, and we had some other coaches that had their precision nutrition certification help us launch a nutrition program. And at the time, it was great, but we didn't have things set up for the future of ongoing coaching. And I knew that's what we needed. And in order for us to bring it to the gym, I knew it was something that I was going to have to head myself, because at that time in January, I was around, at least for my height of being, 5'9", 5'10", I was around 225. And for me, I had low energy, was not sleeping well, actually was diagnosed with prediabetes, and I have PCOS, a whole list of symptoms. Yet here I am, a gym owner, and know that I need to turn my health around and head in the right direction away from chronic disease as best as I can. That being said, I hired a nutrition coach in March of 2022, and since then have lost 50 pounds. And I had a really great journey during that whole time of really diving deep and figuring out a lot of things with myself, and addressing beliefs, addressing systems, addressing lifestyle to be able to achieve the goal and keep the weight off. And now I'm sitting at what is a very healthy 175 for my body type. So when I got to the fall and I realized, hey, I did this, I realized I wanted to bring it to other people because of the simplicity of systems that put into our practice in our family. But more importantly, I realized for myself, the biggest reason I was able to get there was because I had somebody believe in me that I could do it. So in that March, I was terrified. Again, I was an overweight gym owner. I did not fit the build of what it looked like to be a CrossFit gym owner. And so I knew what I had to do. I told just a handful of people of what I wanted to do and what I wanted to become. And I got this amazing card from my cousin that actually said, it had on the front of it this picture of, grass with a small eggs in it. It's actually dove eggs, small dove eggs off to the side. And it said, dwell in possibility. And it was the encouragement I needed to be able to say, hey, what could I be? I know I'm here. And in it, he said, go get him. This is your year. I believe in you. And I can remember looking at that card and getting teared up because I thought, wow, I don't think I even believed in myself that I could do this. And I kept that card next to my bathroom sink. And I looked at it every morning when I got up and said, okay, Bethany, you can do this. You can lose this weight. It's going to be hard, but let's just keep going. Let's take small steps. And so in that, I started my journey of really talking kindly to myself, thinking positively about what I can become, and also addressing some things like James Clear's book with Atomic Habits. Instead of thinking of things like, hey, I want to lose 50 pounds, which sounds overwhelming in the moment, he talks about, instead of utilizing goals, you should actually utilize this idea of identity to aim for that, to be the way that you set habits. And so instead of course, I had a nutrition coach that helped me set some realistic goals for myself. But when it came down to the 23 hours outside of the gym, what I was doing, and I had to make decisions, I ended up asking myself the question, what would a healthy person do in this situation, right? There's desserts at the table, whatever. I could, indulge on some level, but what would a healthy person do in this situation who has goals like I have goals? And so I started making decisions based off of that mindset, because I knew the decisions Bethany was making for years and years, they weren't working. So if I really wanted to become that person, I started to have to think like them, if that makes sense. So that's part of my story. That's part of my journey. And it's been pretty powerful for me to then see how it translates for other people in our gym, our current members too, who don't necessarily have the right mindset to even start their journey correctly, if that makes sense.
I think, gosh, so many things to unpack there. I think so many times when you're a nutrition coach or a dietitian or a gym owner, people expect that you have this level of all of it together and you're doing everything right all the time. I'm like, we're all human. We all
Yes.
struggle. We
Yes.
likely have all had our own journeys with health and fitness and nutrition. And the reason why we're here today is because we realize the impact of once making those changes it can have on becoming the best versions of ourselves. And we want to share that with other people and help them become a better version of themselves. And I think if you're listening to this and you're looking to hire a nutrition coach, or maybe you're looking to become a nutrition coach, like we're all human, and don't expect your nutrition coach to have it all together. Should they be telling you to do one thing and doing something completely different? No, absolutely not. They need to walk the walk, but no, like we're not perfect all the time, right?
Correct. Yes.
So what I think is really cool about this story is your members watched a transformation happen literally in front of their eyes.
Yeah.
And they could see, okay, things are changing. And the way you think about yourself also transfers out to how you interact and the way you walk, the way you carry yourself, all of these things. So I'm sure they watched all of this and they're realizing like, whatever Kool-Aid Bethany's drinking, like I want to drink that too. So I think that was really neat. And, the idea of symbols, and soundtracks and positive thoughts, like John Acuff talks about that in his book, Soundtracks, a lot. And it's cool that your cousin gave you this card and that's a symbol, right? It's one of the reasons why doing something like a vision board brunch, where you have a bunch of symbols on a piece of paper that you can look at all the time, and it be that constant reminder of who do you want to become? Like not what habits necessarily, but the bigger picture. What kind of impact do you want to have? How do you want to interact with the people that you love and the impact that you want to make on the world? So really cool things there. You brought up James Clear and this idea of identity. I'd love to spend some time on that and kind of help people that maybe are listening to this and they are like, I've never thought about this before. I don't know. I'm starting brand new. I'd love to just spend a few minutes talking about how someone would get started in thinking about their identity.
Yeah. So James Clear talks about habit formation in general, just very practically, it's data driven. There's three basic ways of behavior change. There's outcomes, which are usually goals. So I want to lose 25 pounds. And that's usually where people start. And then they kind of backtrack, if you will, or use processes to get there. So I'm going to eat this way, or I'm going to go in a calorie deficit. And there's the hard part about that is that we usually start by focusing on what we want to achieve instead of starting on focusing on who we want to become, which in there lies more intrinsic motivation, if you will. So he challenges it and says, if you actually start with the deepest layer of changing your identity, you're more likely to keep going. If you have that goal of who you want to become and there's a big why underneath it, you're more likely to keep with it because you can go back to that and it can still be. In Healthy Steps Nutrition, we actually start out with our consults asking, why do you want to do this? Why do you want to lose the weight? And oftentimes it takes a good, okay, you want to lose 25 pounds, but why? I want to look good in this. Okay, why do you want to look good in this? And we have to keep pushing. And when you do those moments with your future clients, you find that there's this vulnerable piece down at the bottom that usually has to do with somebody's identity. I just want to be confident in who I am. I want to be the person that I know who I am on the inside, but it's not reflected on the outside. And when you can identify that as a coach and see, really, this person is in there, it's my job as a coach to call it out. We can then refer back to that during this long journey, because it's not easy. It's simple, it's not complicated, but it's not always easy. And it's our job as a coach to be that support along the way and say, okay, let's go back to who, when it gets hard, because it's going to get hard. You're changing yourself. Change is always hard. It's our job as a coach to go back to that identity piece and pull that out and keep that in front of them and say, you can do this. You are becoming this. So a good example of identity-based habits, he actually uses a smoker as an example. When somebody who's trying to quit smoking, instead of going outside and whatever, they're being offered a cigarette, instead of saying something along the lines of, oh no, I'm trying to quit smoking, a better response is, I'm not a smoker. And it's actually verbally, for somebody to say that, just like for me to say, I'm a healthy owner. I'm somebody that chooses healthy choices here when I eat. Not only are you saying that to somebody else, which then, can deflect the process of, getting yourself into maybe some more poor habit choices. I think it also, there's something about speaking it out loud that then backs up, hey, this is my identity. He talks about looking for evidence of your new identity. So even saying it out loud is a way for you to start on the track of going towards the person that you want to become. The other thing that he talks about, the quote that I love that I'm actually just going to read, good old James Clear, he talks about actions and how they add up. He calls those actions votes. So I'm just going to read this really quick. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. No single instance will transform your beliefs, but as the votes build up, so does the evidence of your new identity. This is the reason why meaningful change does not require radical change. Small habits can make a meaningful difference by providing evidence of the new identity. So I even think of it as like nobody, even for votes to add up, even in elections, nobody is 100% elected ever. And in fact, it's usually it's a small percentage, right? That then person becomes that whatever elected seat. So for us to even adopt that, every action you take is a vote for the type of person you become. As long as the majority of the votes add up over time, you're going to become that person. So those are the small changes with even identifying identity first as you start to make habit change can allow for you to step into the person you always want to become and take you a lot further in your journey than just relying solely on motivation and just hoping that I have the will to get up and go and work out today.
I think it's interesting that you started saying to yourself in situations where you might have felt deprived choosing something different, what would a healthy person do? Like, yes. I am a healthy person. What would a healthy person do? And now it goes from the mindset of I'm depriving myself to, no, I'm empowering myself to become the person that I want to become.
Yes.
And that's a completely different mindset in achieving the goals and starting to love the process instead of the end result, which is why so many people reach a goal and then go backwards because they didn't fall in love with the process. And the whole idea of this is let's fall in love with the process so that you reach the person that you want to become and go further than that.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I guess the other piece I was going to add is that with identity, I think the holdup, going back to what you were talking about with John Acuff, is that as we start to embrace this identity, I think we often can get in the way of ourselves. New identity, and that was a pain point. Oh, there goes my camera. Of course, why? No. Do you want me to pause?
No, it's okay. Just keep going. She'll cut it out. Don't worry.
Okay. I'm going to try to start my video. Okay. don't know what
There
that
we
was
go.
all about. Um, the part that I had to overcome in my own journey, even though I was starting to step into my own identity, was the beliefs I had about myself, these soundtracks that I had in my head that went something like, as I had intention, okay, what does a healthy person want to do in this situation, et cetera? Or when I stood in front of the mirror, thinking about my day, thinking about my choices that I was about to make, I often had the soundtracks and like, this is not, you're not going to do this, or you think you're going to do this, but it's really going to end out poorly. Or if this is going to stick, you would have been able to do this by now for a long time. And it was in those moments that I had just to myself that I realized I was not kind to Bethany. I had to work on this through some therapy, of course, but I really didn't realize I wasn't speaking kind to myself. And I talked to our members about this specifically. As you are moving towards your new goal of the person that you want to become, ask yourself the question, am I being kind to myself? And am I the reason why I can't achieve my own goals? And I'm not trying to send people to therapy, but at the end of the day, it can be a big reason. We often talk, our biggest thing as gym owners we see is that people will be terrified to step out of their own cart to walk into the gym because of probably these soundtracks that are playing through their head. Wow, I'm not going to fit in here. Or I'm terrified I'm going to look like an idiot trying to just move a barbell. Who's going to, want to be my friend here, or whatever. There's soundtracks that are in there that even prevent us from taking the action steps that we need to take to be the person that we want to become. So I had to address those, and I had to actually speak the opposite of it to myself out loud in front of the mirror to be able to get over those things. And say, no, Bethany, you are more than capable of doing this. You are doing this. This is the person you were created to be. And this is the person you are becoming at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And I think so many people don't even realize how negative they are, how hurtful they are to themselves. Like we would never treat a friend like that, and you're hanging out with the jerk all day yourself.
Yes.
So if you are like, oh my gosh, this is me, go get soundtracks or download it, read that book, highly recommend it. Go back and listen to the podcast that was released a week or two ago with John Acuff, where we talked about mindset and soundtracks. That'll be super helpful for you. One of the things that John Acuff talks about in his book Soundtracks, but also in the teen version, Your New Playlist, is asking yourself when you have these thoughts, 3 questions. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it helpful? And if it is not those things, okay, it gets a voice, but not a vote. Like, okay, great. Like, okay, I'm aware of what I'm thinking, but I don't need to keep thinking that. Let's figure out what I want to be thinking. What do I want to believe? And let's start saying that stuff out loud. So I think that's a really helpful thing to just start identifying these soundtracks, because so many times our brain is hardwired to believe what we've seen in the past, right? So if we've had a bad situation happen in the past, which we all have had, things that are not fortunate, right? If we've had a bad situation in the past, we go down this rabbit hole of like, oh, yep, it's just happening again. It's just happening again. And in reality, like, no, you're creating that reality because of your thoughts. And going back to, a quote that I absolutely love by Craig Groeschel, like, your life moves in the direction of your strongest thoughts. And if you can figure out what thoughts you want to believe, like, who could you become? Like this, and reach your full potential, right?
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
You have a funny story about James Clear that I think will connect our CrossFit listeners, and then all tie it into John Acuff, and then we'll wrap up this podcast with any final thoughts that you have. What is the funny story about your level 1 in James Clear?
Oh, yes. First of all, I love James Clear. If you have not read his book and you are looking for all of the things to get your habits going and create systems so that you are successful, we talked about identity, but really the practical pieces to put into place to make it happen. James Clear is your person. Atomic Habits is a book that you will just change your life. It changed mine. That being said, I became a big fan, and I love his story in general. And I was down getting my CrossFit level 1 in Columbus at Rogue. And I was talking to one of the folks there that was also getting her level 1. And we made a connection in higher education. I have a background in higher ed, that she works at Miami, in Ohio. And she said, I said, oh yeah, I was talking about the book, James Clear. And she goes, oh yeah, I know his wife. They actually go to a CrossFit gym down here. And yeah, his book is just money at the end of the day. We love it, all the things. And my mind just got blown that James Clear does CrossFit. And I don't know if he still does, but I was just like, of course he does. This all makes sense. And all of the things that you want to become in life, of course, CrossFit would be in there to add to that piece. So it was a neat story. And I felt like, yes, I am one degree closer to James Clear now.
I feel like if we got all of the authors together that do CrossFit and like people, leaders that do CrossFit together, it would be a really impactful room of people.
Yeah.
You know, I think so many times when you think about CrossFit, you think about the Tias and all the people that are lifting heavy tires. But if I was thinking about this morning, when I look at some of the people that I respect the most, when I look at super successful business owners, and I don't just mean successful with their business, but growing amazing teams, empowering other people, and just making an incredible impact, they all have something similar in common. They all truly prioritize their health. And
Yes.
they make it a priority to exercise. They make it a priority to eat well. They make it a priority to sleep and to take care of themselves. Because at the end of the day, you only have one body, you know? And if you're not taking care of yourself, how are you going to be able to show up to be the best person at work or with your family and all the other relationships and the things that you want to accomplish throughout the day? So if you're thinking about this and you're like, I don't have time, maybe you're making time for things that shouldn't be such a big priority in your life. And you need to make yourself and your health a priority this year. Make 2023. This is the year for you to get healthy. So you have that story with James Clear, and then John Acuff, who's one of my favorite authors, does CrossFit as well. We met last year at an event, and I was getting some books signed to give to our staff, and he's like, what do you do besides workout? I was like, oh, well, we own a CrossFit gym. And he's like, oh, my neighbor owns a CrossFit gym. I do CrossFit. And it was a fun connection. So again, a lot of authors and people, leaders do CrossFit. I think it's a really cool way to push yourself, to track metrics, right? One of the reasons why I love Sugar WOD so much is I can look back at the end of the month and see, did I hit my 16 workouts this month or did I not? And it gives you something to strive for, and the consistency of the healthy habits get you to be the healthy person that you want to become. So, track your progress, because that's an important piece. And I don't just mean like numbers on a scale. I mean the actions that you're taking to get to be the person that you want to be.
Absolutely. It was funny to add to that, James Clear was on Brene Brown's podcast, who I also love, Brene Brown. Yep. And she asked if he was human because of all of the things he's been able to accomplish. And he said, I just decided to play the consistency game. He said, consistency over intensity every time. And it was a moment for me to take away. Like, I now look at my clients and say, to your point, Nicole, consistency over intensity is going to get you a lot further down the line to your big, big goals at the end of the day. So I love that.
Absolutely. Any final thoughts as we wrap up today's podcast? And of course, where can people find you?
Yeah, I guess you can find me, you can find us at CrossFitWooster.com. And I guess I'm on the socials at Bethany Ream, just at me, at Bethany Ream. I keep it simple. But the final thought I have is, I guess deep down, everybody knows the type of person that they want to become. Let yourself dream in 2023 for just a second. Give yourself space for a second to dream about the person you want to become, and then think about, what does it take? Who if I want to become this person, what does it take to start being that person? And write it down. And then from there, I think you will start to think, all right, what kind of habits does this person have? But just let yourself dream in 2023.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I have no doubt in my mind the incredible things that you guys are going to do at CrossFit Wooster. You guys are moving into a bigger building. You've finally got this holistic like wellness facility encompassing
Yes.
CrossFit and nutrition and all these other pieces of the puzzle to truly support your community and becoming the best versions of themselves. So if you are in this area, Wooster area, is that the city?
We say Worcester. We say where
Oh,
the cows go mutt instead of moo. So
okay.
even though it's
Okay.
double O.
Clearly, I'm saying it wrong. But if you're in the area, check them out. Highly recommend it. You will not regret it. You need, thinking about the person that you want to become, you truly need a community and a tribe of people to support you on your journey. And if you don't have that, then you need to plug yourself into a community that will support you to get there. So, you're in the area, go find Bethany. I hope you enjoyed this podcast with Bethany Ream, the owner and nutrition coach at CrossFit Wooster. The new year is always a time where people get excited to make New Year's resolutions, set new goals. It's a fresh slate. But the truth is, most people do not achieve those New Year's resolutions. In fact, studies show that 80% of people do not make it out of the second week of February with their New Year's resolutions. They fail. And only 8% of people actually achieve their New Year's resolutions at the end of the year. So what do those 8% of people do differently? Well, I can tell you what our most successful clients do, and they find a reason, a deep understanding, a really important why. Why do you want to reach a certain resolution? Why do you want to achieve something? It has to have meaning beyond just a number on a scale or a PR number. Why do you want to do the hard things to accomplish the goals and the New Year's resolutions that you are looking to accomplish? I challenge you to take a few minutes to think about that, because when you can really dig deep and understand why you want to do something, who you want to become, the reason and the steps that you have to take to achieve that are so much more meaningful and intentional. When we look at the New Year's resolutions trends this year, we saw something pretty interesting. The top New Year's resolution wasn't about losing weight, wasn't about getting into a fitness routine, it wasn't about a diet. It was actually about mindset and mental health, according to a Forbes poll. Mindset and mental health. The cool thing is mindset, mental health, and nutrition, wellness, sleep, support system, they all interact with each other. I'm sure you've heard me say this if you've listened to any number of these episodes. That is why we focus on a holistic approach, addressing nutrition, stress management, mindset, lifestyle support system, sleep, and of course, exercise. They all interact with each other. When we're stressed, we eat certain foods, we crave certain foods. Our mental health is impacted by what we eat, and what we eat impacts our mental health. And when we realize all of these things interact with each other, it's even more reason why we should take one step at a time to becoming the healthiest version of ourselves, prioritizing quality sleep, quality nutrition, daily movement, and a positive mindset. Practicing positive affirmations, practicing gratitude so that you can start switching. Maybe it's not a switch, more like a dial, as John Acuff says, but slowly start transitioning so that you can put yourself be positioned to be in a better mindset more often. I truly hope that you enjoyed this podcast episode. Please don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review. It really helps this podcast reach more people and make sure you don't miss another episode. We'll see you back here next week on the Nutrition Made Simple podcast.